Welcome everyone. I'm Gabrielle Dolan and we are live from what I'm calling the 5G Big Brother house.
The Big Brother house.
With me, I've got Mike Wood and Debbie Wills from Telstra. So hello, welcome. Thank you.
Hi Gab, how are you?
Good. I'm feeling like Oprah on the couch. First of all, explain a few things why we are dressed like the odd couple, because Mike is in his Telstra gear. Yesterday he was all pink and now he's in all blue, so good to see the diversity. You know, Debbie, you're just dressed normally, normal business attire, and I am actually going to a cocktail event after this, hence why I am dressed in, looking like this. I don't normally look like this for a session. So I should say, the reason we're here is, Mike, our paths crossed when you did the thought leadership training that I did at Telstra a couple of years ago, and then I ran into you at a cafe in Ascot Vale, and Debbie was there, and we met. And I came across what you're doing here in this apartment, and we'll show you all about what's going on in this apartment here. But it really is, I guess, leading the research and doing all the stuff around 5G. But what I loved about what you're doing here and the experiment you're doing is all the stories you're capturing about it, and it's the way we do it. So maybe we might start with you.
Sure.
Like, where are we? What are we doing?
So,
how did this come about?
Well, first of all, welcome to everybody out there.
And I should say we're live. So if you want to ask questions, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. If you want to ask questions, put them in there, and we will get to them.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, Gab, to the 5G apartment, or the smart apartment, and to Deb. We're at Docklands in Melbourne. We're just opposite Marvel Stadium. And how did this come about? Well, we've been locked up in COVID for so long, and we've been wanting to get out and develop all of our networks, and we've got new graduates coming on board. And once, I guess, we were able to get back to the office, we're actually developing the next version of 5G. And we thought, what a perfect opportunity with the new graduates to get them involved, bring them into a real customer experience so that they're not learning off PowerPoint, they're not in the lab or in the office. They're actually going to set stuff up in a real customer house. So we're going to have a look around in a minute, but the whole project came about last year when we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we could set up what customers would use? The grads and our engineering teams could come in here, build it from scratch, fit it out, and then they learn, because they're learning as they started. And I joined, I was a researcher when I started, and it was experimenting, and it was learning with hands-on. And they're already, the energy with the grads, and they're cooking. You might want to ask them what they're doing in a minute. But that's what we're doing. We're here at Docklands. We've set up a live 5G smart apartment, and we're looking at the next generation of 5G.
Yeah, excellent. And so, Deb, what's your role in this? What role do you play in the 5G Big Brother house?
Yeah. So actually, this is phase 2 of the smart apartment. We actually did one back in 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Gold Coast.
Sounds like a long time ago on the Gold Coast, and that was when we first brought out 5G. And so what we thought, the positives out of that, and all of those stories that we built from that we took global. And it was a fantastic way for us to try and explain what 5G, what it means to an everyday person, an everyday family, and how 5G can support them. We then thought, let's take that the next step. All of these graduates are part of Telstra's network and infrastructure engineering team, and me as one of those leaders, obviously are here to make sure that those graduates get all the opportunities to experience. And exactly what Mike said, we're missing that hands-on. We've had years of sitting in front of teams, sitting in our desks at home. You miss that face-to-face collaboration, which is so important for our graduates when they first start with us. So for us, this was a great opportunity to bring them together, and you see them every day. They're thriving. The stories that are coming out of them, the experience that they're getting is just brilliant.
Yeah. So I guess, and Deb, you're looking at sort of very much from a leadership perspective and people development, and you're doing like, how do we find the stories to help, address some of the concerns that might be coming out of 5G?
Well, I mean, customers, for example, you buy a 5G home broadband modem, and you get sent a box. Now, where you put that box makes a big difference. So we wanted to receive the boxes in the mail, as you do, or courier, and do the unboxing, test the instructions, test how they're set up, and find the pitfalls of what we do. So it's about setting it up from new and seeing what that customer experience is like, and then improving on that. So the feedback, that they have a lot of fun doing it, and they're trying they're trying all the things that customers and kids would do when they're learning. We've got a media station set up, so journalists potentially can work on their stories for the evening, send them off. The students at night can work on their homework, and as you can see, they can cook and they can live stream in the background. So it's about trying all these things that we all started when we were in COVID, but the workplace has changed. People, and Telstra is one of those workforces now where we all went from working in an office to all working from home within 2 weeks. And you know what? Most people want to do a flexible arrangement now, and that's what we support.
Yeah.
So it's being able to work from home, go into the office, have people over, run meetings or learning sessions like this from the Big Brother 5G house.
So we'll have a look around at the moment. I feel like I'm doing an infomercial, but this is not an infomercial about 5G. It really is the power of stories and different ways you can actually, generate and create stories. But we'll have a look around. And so when I came in, there's, as Mike, you said, there's grads in the back here who are cooking and, live streaming their cooking. Where's it going to?
It's going to the other grads. Like they're experimenting with how do you show stuff, in this case, from a kitchen?
Yeah.
And can you set up a laptop, pop on a camera, and actually show what you're doing?
Yeah. So this house feels like they're trying to road test everything you would do over So how's this job as a grad? Now, I don't know if you're listening. When you started, I worked at NAB in their technology industry, and I started about 35 years ago. My job as a grad for the first 12 months, I did get variety.
Yep.
1 week I'd be in the tape room, and the next week I'd be in the printer room, and I did that.
Start somewhere.
I did that for 12 months. These guys, seriously, they're cooking and playing games. Like, I just want to say, good on you. It's you're probably loving. They're probably going, this working's so much great. This will probably be the best job you ever get. It is. Let's not tell them.
It's not all like this,
guys.
It
is all downhill from there. It's all downhill from there. So maybe before we get into what we're doing with the stories, because that's what we really want to get into, do you want to maybe show us? We'll have a look around. So we have just got another camera up here where we can have a look around, and we'll flip this to solo layout so you can see it. And please, and send through your questions if you've got any questions at all about what we're doing here.
Sure. So literally, we're live at Docklands. If you're familiar with Melbourne, we're looking out over Docklands Harbour. We've got one of our grads driving the machines. We're opposite Marvel Stadium, so those that can see Marvel Stadium in the background. But what I'll show you is now one of the things, and I'll get Deb to come up and help me. One of the things what people ask is, what's 5G all about? Well, Deb, if you want to hold that, and then you can just show me to start with, and I'll talk about it. So one of the things that we're finding, live streaming, one of the things we're finding on 5G, and all the operators globally are finding this, everyone's using their phones and devices more and more and more. We're seeing every year a 40% increase in our traffic or in our data usage on the network. Now, if you think about where you live, imagine the cars on your streets. Every year, there's a 40% increase in the number of cars. Well, that's phenomenal. So what we have to do as engineers and as a network team is look at how we can make the network more efficient. So when we roll out 5G, we're improving 4G and we're adding 5G as well. And that's giving some efficiency. But in this apartment, we're about to go to what's called the new high band on 5G or millimetre wave. And we're going to go from like a 2-lane highway to a 10-lane multi-lane freeway. And that's so that we can keep up with that data demand. Now, if you come over here, Debbie, what we're going to show you, previously, we just ran a speed test on the network that we're getting here. And I don't know what sort of speeds you get on your network or your connection at home. We're getting about 3,500, so 3.5 gigabits per second. And that's on the new high band network. And over here on the current 5G network, we're getting between 200 and 300. But what I wanted to show was, if you have a look up and come in a bit closer, Deb, this is what measures the radio frequency spectrum. So between these two lines here are the signals we're getting on what most people are using on 5G. Now, think of that as a 2-lane highway. And if you come across to this one here, I'm going to activate our speed test, and you're going to see the 8-lane freeway jump into action. Now, this is 800 megahertz worth of spectrum that we buy from the government, and they auctioned it last year. So, Deb, what this is really showing is this is the new 5G on millimetre wave that's coming to the CBDs, it's coming to the stadiums, and it's coming to, if you just move back a sec, it's coming to, I guess, where we've got high traffic areas. So that's going to help with the congestion. So the challenge for us is, how does everyone keep using their devices? How do they keep connected at home, doing all the stuff they love doing, but stay connected? That's really where the new 5G is going. So, you know, this is what this apartment's about. I'm going to show you one more thing, which is a story, which is the lead into our stories. Now, when I first, I'm not going to give away my age, but I built my first base station when I was 15 years old, and it was in 1990. So I'm going to show you what that base station looked like, and it was on my parents' house. And I don't know if a work colleague of mine in Telstra, Andrew Deeth, I don't know if you're tuned in or if you're listening, but he and I built this, and we built a 15-metre tower on top of my dad's house. Now, as a parent, I would not allow that, but let's have a look at what I built. Now, I don't know whether you can go in a bit closer, Deb.
And Mike, I think you're lying. You said 1990, and that says 1980. You think you just tried to take 10 years off your age.
10 years off. This is my parents' house. Now, you can just see two little people. That's me and my friend. We were 15 years old, and the antenna on the base station is, well, it's about 10 metres above the roof, but it's right at the top. Now, I was an experimenter as a young person, and, there was no internet then, and I talked all over the world. I was able to communicate with people all over the world. So when I showed that to Telstra Research to get a job, they said, "You built your first base station at 15, come in." That was, and that's, I tell grads that today, and they go, "Wow, can we do that?" But they're in the 5G Big Brother house. So we might go back to the couch and talk about some stories.
Well, I love that. I love that for a couple of reasons. One is, first of all, the power of story probably got you your job, which is good. And just as you were talking about how the world's changed and we got this. Well, it's more of a comment, I guess, that's come up from Sandaz, and he's literally saying that he's learned everything online since 2 decades and earning my living. Started as a graphic designer, then became a web designer, then social media content expert, now helping organisations get their complex IT solutions, and is literally doing. Again, you wouldn't. This wasn't even an option years and years ago. So thanks, Sandaz.
And it's about, when you're online, it's about staying connected, and being able to stay connected online while the rest of the family's doing their stuff.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you told us a story about building your first base station, which I love. It shows how passionate you are, and I guess like you said, it's pretty much got you the job.
Yeah.
and so
I'm still here.
Yeah, you're still here. It's and so Deb, we were talking before about stories and how you're looking after the grads and leadership development. What's your experience with stories, especially for maybe young people coming into the workforce who probably think, well, I don't have any stories because I'm not as old as us.
That's right. And I mean, even for me, when you start thinking about stories, where do you start? You've got a great story, Mike, with your own home built base station. And I'm like, oh gosh, I haven't built a base station. What's my story going to be?
You're just not trying hard.
I'm not trying hard. So my advice, when I talk to people is think about what resonates with you. The story doesn't have to be about building an antenna on your home. It could be something that's just really resonated, but really connects you to the person you're talking to, or what you're trying to relay, or how you're just trying to have that connection with someone. So don't think your story has to be epic. Don't think you need to be, solving some major issue. It could just be some really simple story, and it could just be an experience that you've had. It could be a story that someone else has told you that you go, do you know what? That really resonates with me, and that I feel that story. Because as soon as feelings come into the story, it makes you remember it, and it gives you that appreciation that that person has actually put some thought into it and actually has some reasoning behind why they're having a conversation with me. So don't think you need to think big. One of the things that we do in our leadership program at Telstra is we actually just sit down and go, what are the different connections from a leadership that you could actually start a story? So you may not have the story yet, but now that you've written down that, I'd love to have a story about, me and my first job at Telstra, or me and, when I had my first interview and it was a flop. And as soon as you start to write that down, then you go, oh, I do have a story, actually, and I write that down. And so that's when you start to build your whole repertoire.
People remember that.
Stories.
You're right. You're so right, because when these guys came in the first week, we're into month 2 here. The first week I said, do you want to cook pasta? And the room just lit up, right? So we streamed 5.
Well, because their job's so boring.
I think they were hungry.
They were probably hungry. We were working too hard. But you know what? After the first week, that's what they remembered. They didn't remember the little test they, hey, we cooked pasta. What can we do this week? So that was what was starting.
Yeah. And I think, Deb, when you were saying, finding stories, they don't have to be epic. I think a lot of stories, especially when you're starting out and young, they could be about your growing up and your parents. You start to collect this repertoire of stories that you can use in a whole heap of varieties around what's important to you. So I often share a story going for one of my very first jobs, and I was I think I was 17, and I went for a job, and I got a job interview, and on the next weekend, when I'm sure we're sounding really old here, but I wrote a letter. I did write a letter. I thought that was a given. I didn't even say that. So I wrote a letter, sent it, got an interview, went for the interview, and on the weekend, because the jobs were only advertised in the Saturday paper. Yes, of course, remember that. And so I saw the job advertised again. And so I said to my mum, I clearly didn't get the job. And she said, well, clearly no one else got the job either. So why don't you apply again and write a different, stronger letter based on what you learned? So I did, and then I got a second interview, and the first thing they said was, why did you apply again? And I said, because I really want this job and I know I can do it. And I got offered the job on the spot. Now,
I've got goosebumps.
Yes, what the story does. But you know what the story does too? It's the hero of the story is my mum. It's not like me bragging, oh, look at me, how smart I am, I did this. The hero's my mum.
Well, the hero is actually your determination.
Yeah, but getting it from my mum. So when I share a story like that, people go, oh, you're like, they get you get a sense of my determination. You perhaps get a sense of, well, and it's one thing I say, if it's not working, don't just give up. Actually, but don't do the same thing. Do something different. I mean, that story does all that, but it's really a story where my mum's the hero.
See, it comes natural to you.
It doesn't come natural. I've worked hard at it, as and that's another thing. Anyone thinking I'm not a good storyteller.
I can't remember writing for jobs. That's just so long ago, isn't it?
But for those people that don't think they're a good storyteller, what are some of those tips from you that you've been?
How would you start?
Look. I think it is a skill. Look, when I say, I think like anything, like playing tennis, some people might be naturally better at it than others. Like cooking, some people might be naturally better, but you can get better. You can always get better. So I think how you start is like some of the things you spoke about before. Like just think of the things that have happened in your life, and like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that demonstrate? And you go, well, that does demonstrate that I'm, persistent, or that I love trying new things. I'm a risk taker. Okay, well then that's a story you could share. And then look, there's a really few basic things. We won't go into the whole thing, but keep them short. Like, 1 to 2 minutes. Don't make your stories go for like 5 minutes because people are going to, okay, get on with it. Like, get to the point quicker. That's the main thing. They've got to be true. I know that's like a no-brainer, but some people think, and the reason they either make them up or exaggerate them because they think no one would be interested.
Yeah.
Like, no one would be interested in that little job I went for the first time and I wrote a letter. Well, you know what? They are interested. So make them true. I can I'll put something in the after this in the comments perhaps, but on my website there's a 7-day storytelling starter kit and it's free. And it literally, if you're interested in this, it will just get you started on storytelling.
Should use that with the grads here because they're going to come out of this and they're telling the stories of the pasta and the cooking and what we did and, the first live stream they did.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, that wasn't that good. We need to do this.
Yeah.
And they're fixing their own, their own self-critics.
Yeah.
But the first time that they had to present live, it was all over the place. And, I said, it doesn't matter because the next time you'll improve on that.
Yeah. So one of the things with stories, and I think you said like the first time you did this was 2019, did a similar concept, and you took, and I think you said like the stories from that we took globally.
Yeah.
So what are practically, the stories coming out of this, how you're experimenting with different things and what you're learning.
Yeah.
What are you then doing with those stories?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll give maybe one example, Mike. So the first thing we did was we actually went out and surveyed people and said, how many connected devices do you have in your home? Just so that we could kind of get a feel. And I think the average was around about 19. But we took that data to a conference and we put it up on a big poster. And over the 3 days, we found that everyone was coming along writing their own number of devices that they had in the home. And then they'd come back and correct it and go, I forgot this one, so let me just
They were updating our poster with their data. It was brilliant. That was generating the story of the conference.
Yeah. Because what it did is it actually made people think and said, I've got more connected devices than I thought I had.
Yeah, because when you said 19, I go, well, that's ridiculous. I would only have about 5. And then you're all of a sudden going, no.
I think you've got 5 on you, probably.
Exactly.
So to me, that was a great first story that came out of that. Because, when we had the poster up, people just came around and the conversations were just happening. And then that kind of led to other conversations about, I've got this, look at my phone, I can change the lights in my house from France and I live in London. And so that started generating other stories. And it just really kind of helped our story, which was the levels in a home when it comes to 5G are very low. That just became part of their story. They didn't even realize that they were actually helping spread that great information out there because they were telling their story. So, I mean, that's just one example.
So I guess what flowed on after that conference, that was a conference in France, I think. We got invited to present to the European Union later in November.
Wow.
And it was, hey, you guys, you Aussies have done this.
Yep.
Can you come and tell us your story? What did you do? How did you, why did you do it? What was the story? They loved seeing pictures of the Gold Coast and they loved seeing, it was the environment that we were in. But I guess, we're experimenters and we say it how it is and we just want to try things. And what that led to was, hey, we want to do one of these in London. We want to do one of these in Paris. These are the Europeans. Can we use your model? So it was, that's how it's sort of gone global.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me of one more anecdote to that. We do a lot of work for international organisations, and one of them is the United Nations. We do work for the United Nations Telecom Association. They wanted to build a mobile app, and we said, well, we can help you with that. And I don't know what your experience is like, but when you put proposals up, it's very easy for people to say no. Because they go, oh, no, a proposal on paper, no, we don't like that. So what I did, and I didn't tell them I was going to do this, we actually built the app and we hadn't published it, but I took it to a conference. It was actually in Peru. And I said, well, look, I'm here to talk about the proposal you wanted. I've scoped it out, but I've only got one PowerPoint and it's only got 3 words. Click on this link and let's have a look at the app. So everyone got their device out, clicked on the link, and they go, what? You've actually built the app? Hey, hey, can we have this? And it was a risk.
Because I was going to say that's a different way to do a proposal. Actually, build
it, and they will come. But no,
Yeah,
it was a case of let's try a different approach, and okay, we modified some things, but it was a case of could you do this? It wasn't a case of shall we have it? Can you modify this, or can we do this as well? It was on a staging sort of thing. So it was an interesting way of going, and what people said is we've never had that approach before.
Yeah.
But we love it, So it was just, that's one of the ways. And since then, the app we built is now in the, I think, the 6 UN languages.
Mm-hmm.
And they invited us to Malaysia for the launch of the app in I guess, in Southeast Asia.
Oh.
So we got to actually go and they presented that work. So it's a case of what started with one concept led to other groups saying we'd like that as well. So that's...
Sounds like you get to travel a hell of a lot for your work.
Not the last 2 years.
But clearly
We're live. We're going to the world via this medium at the moment. But, it's... and look, it's been challenging the last couple of years not being able to do that. But using these sort of things to share those stories, inspire others. And what we're going to do after this is the grads are going to come back with their stories of the event.
Yeah.
In the next couple of weeks when we wind up, because they're keeping journals, and it's not about here's my detailed report that I'm not going to read. What did you learn? Tell me a story.
Yeah, exactly. I think way too often in business we ask for written proposals or a written report. You and I, 3 of us have probably been on so many projects throughout our career, and you always do a post-implementation review document that I'm sure no one ever reads. But imagine if we, instead of those reviews, that were just capturing stories, and the stories just are told over and over again, where it's almost like either don't make that mistake or definitely do this because this has worked. Excellent. Hey, you talked about the European. This is just a side thing. What were the European Union interested in this concept for?
Oh, okay. So basically, with the EU, obviously all of the European countries, most of the European countries are members there. We were the reason they were interested is that we were actually the first Southeast Asian country, along with Korea, to roll out 5G.
Right. Okay.
So we were the third operator globally back in 2019. And you mentioned earlier about the opposition. There was actually quite a lot of community concern about 5G when we first rolled it out. And this is global, right? So the fact that in Australia we turned it on way ahead of anybody else, we'd built a smart apartment and it was connected over 5G. It was, hey, you guys have done all this and you're all live. Can you come and tell us about it? Because we're still working out how do we even build it.
Yeah.
So, you're live in a smart apartment. We're still using 4G and all of our networks are congested. How can we turn on 5G? Yeah. So that was their interest.
Yeah, and that's the stories that we were telling to customers as well.
Yeah.
It's difficult to tell a customer, with a pie chart or a graph how 5G is safe, but when you can actually create videos and show the experience to them, it just really kind of allows them to see what we're doing without having to get really into the technical. So it's great, just practical way of approaching 5G and the need for people to understand the technology, what it's about, and what it means to them, how it helps them to thrive in their day-to-day.
What I've noticed with 5G, and for because I'm such a tech head, G stands for generation. But there has been a lot of controversial conspiracy theories around 5G. I cannot recall that happening with 3G or 4G. Why do you think it's the case? Are the concerns valid, or it's because
I think it's so easy now.
Yeah.
It's so easy for information to go around, and if we don't fill a void with correct, accurate information, it will be filled by someone else with some other information, which is why we always have to be on the front foot. So doing this for millimeter wave is really important, because before Telstra actually gets to roll it out in earnest, we need everyone to be able to get the information and get real accurate information. And when it was 2G and 3G, it was about SMSing, and maybe it was more about the visual of a pole. Now the sites are so small, and they really kind of just blend in. So now it's about, what are you doing to me? What control do I have? It's a big difference, I think.
And I think you're right, Debbie. It's the social media. We didn't have that full on. Every 10 years, there's a new generation of mobile, and this just happened to coincide with the the accelerated growth of social media. We had the COVID-19 stuff at the end of 2019, start of 2020. So you had the perfect storm. And
did 5G get blamed for COVID?
Absolutely. Yeah, 5G was blamed for everything. If you couldn't find your socks in the morning, people would go, "Oh, they must have turned on 5G." It was one of those things where, and in Australia, it got to a point where people were having a laugh about it, and we've sort of moved over. But on the serious side, the research has been done, and the organisations like the World Health Organisation and in Australia, the government health agencies, they publish some very strong material. Because it's not us doing the research, we're looking at what they're coming up with, but customers want us to come in and test it in their place. So that's what we were able to do. And you're not going to stop the social media. It was about giving people information, like you said, and giving them informed information. And at the end, people were having a bit of a laugh about it. But
I think I can recall you telling me about one of the tweets the team Telstra did, was that something happened and then you tweeted it wasn't us as a joke.
So it was, I think it was around the Easter of 2020.
Right.
And it was, it was something, I forget the actual tweet, but 5G, I'll have to remember the tweet now, but it was somebody tweeted 5G has done this and blamed us. And we said, well, we wish we'd put that tweet out as well. We actually amplified the tweet, and it went global. Good on Telstra for jumping on this. And then we looked at, well, can we do anything else that's on the side of comedy? And we did some other things. But so it's it's about looking at the material, working with the public, and working with our audience, and answering their questions honestly. It's about that's what it's about. It's the story. It's those short stories.
And I think what you said before, Deb, and I've always said when I was like working with leaders who go, "Oh, we're not communicating anything yet because we don't have the information." I always say, if you're not communicating, and this is with anything, it could be something like around restructures or change in an organisation. If you're not communicating stuff out there, the void will be filled with other stuff. So, and waiting to have all the answers before you communicate anything, well, that's just a ridiculous concept these days because we don't have all the answers.
We're in an era where people want instant answers. They want things straight away. Whereas, when we used to write the letters for our jobs, we'd sit back and go, "Oh, they haven't replied 2 weeks later, but have I got the job?" And it's now people log on and they go, "Well, my phone's not working here," or "How can I get this service?" or "What can I do here?" And that's why we've got social teams that respond. "Oh, look, let me help you out. I can put you in touch." And, in Australia, one of the things that our government did, which I really praise them for this, they've set up a service called Talk to a Scientist. So, you can ring up the government agency and say, "Hey, I've got a question about this." If you don't want to talk to Telstra or one of the other operators, you can ring a scientist. And they'll answer your question. Or if they can't, they'll work with you. And some people go, "Well, I didn't know that." They're actually talking to us.
Excellent. Well, how are you going, Grace?
It smells amazing.
Smells good.
Have you got enough for everybody online?
Okay. When you finish that, there's some printers at the back that need paper changed. If you don't know how to do it, I can show you how to do it.
I can see they've done the dishes as well, so they do the dirty work.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Yeah. Hey, this has been fun chatting to you both around what you're doing here. A really great concept to generate and capture stories.
Well, thanks for coming in because, we do all of this, and to be able to share some of this online, talk to people, and I know our grads and others are looking at this, but just the concept of, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have even thought of doing this. Now we are live in 2022. And it's great to have you. So thank you for coming in.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
It was like good to chat. I feel like,